G'day everyone, Rune here, and this is chapter 10 of my What If Naruto Was a Girl series. In the last chapter, we saw a team up of Jiraiya, Sakura, and Haku face off against Kisame, and the tag team of Naruko and Sasuke against Itachi. We ended this chapter with Jiraiya, Sakura, and Haku trapping Kisame in a black swamp jutsu before leaving to help Sasuke and Naruko. Since making sure that Naruko wasn't taken by the Akatsuki was a higher priority, they left Kisame there. Meanwhile, over with Naruko and Sasuke, Sasuke had unlocked his Mangekyo after witnessing the supposed death of Naruko. This allowed Itachi to reveal to Sasuke the truth of the Uchiha massacre, as well as everything that Danzo has done, including revealing Naruko as the Jinchuriki to the village. After warning Sasuke of the genjutsu he'd placed on Naruko, Itachi took his leave and Sasuke began to make his way back to town with Naruko. This is where the next chapter begins. With Sakura, Jiraiya and Haku moving at top speed and Sasuke making his way towards them, it doesn't take long for the two groups to meet up. Relieved that her two teammates are alive, Sakura launches into a flurry of questions, asking how they got away and if they're alright. Sasuke isn't ready to tell anyone about Itachi just yet, so he tells them that Itachi had used the last of his chakra, placing Naruko in a genjutsu and retreated. While no one believes him, a quick kick from Sakura gets Haku and Jiraiya to go along with it. They all head back to the hotel, where Haku decides to head back to the village, explaining that he hadn't exactly asked for permission before leaving. And besides, Kakashi would want to know that they're all okay. Later that night, Sasuke is still waiting for Naruko to wake up from the genjutsu. Sakura had attempted to stay up with him, but had fallen asleep due to chakra exhaustion. Sasuke is still awake partly due to his higher chakra levels, but mostly because he remembers Itachi's warning about how bad the genjutsu was. After several hours, Naruko wakes up suddenly with a strangled gasp, her eyes glossy and unfocused as whatever she saw is still playing in her head. Cautiously, Sasuke approaches her, softly calling her name, half not to frighten her and half not to risk waking the others. When that doesn't work, he lightly touches her arm. The result is instant as she jerks away, her head whipping around to stare at him in terror. Sasuke has never seen that kind of look on her face before. Now seriously worried, Sasuke raises his hands in a placating gesture as he tries to tell her that she's safe and that whatever she'd seen was only a genjutsu. Naruko whimpers and curls in on herself a little. Shakily, she reaches out with her hand and takes hold of the hem of his shirt between her thumb and forefinger. I'm sorry. I don't know what I did wrong, but I'm sorry. Please don't go. Please don't leave me all alone. I can't be alone again. Please, Sasuke. Please don't go. Please don't go. Sasuke remembers what Sakura had told him about her falling out with Ino, and about how Naruko had been either isolated or ignored by almost everyone in the village. It made sense that her worst nightmare would be of losing the friends that she'd finally gained, of going back to the way things were when she was little. The image of Naruko standing alone while surrounded by people glaring at her with hate makes him want to punch something. Preferably Danzo. For now, however, he pulls out a kunai and asks Naruko to look at him. Once her eyes are on him, he makes a shallow cut in his hand, just enough to draw blood. Naruko's eyes widen in shock and she's about to get up to look for bandages when he closes his hand into a fist, forcing a little more blood out of the wound. Naruko, on this blood I shed, I swear to you, I will never abandon this team. If someone were to take me away, I will do whatever I must to get back. And if someone were to try taking you from us, I will not stop fighting until you are back with us. A single tear slips down Naruko's face as she launches herself at Sasuke, wrapping her arms around him and burying her face into his chest. With only some hesitation, Sasuke hugs her back. Unbeknownst to the two teens, Jiraiya gives a small smile before letting himself go back to sleep. Sasuke had this one handled. The next morning, Sakura apologizes to Naruko with tears in her eyes for not being awake when Naruko woke up. Naruko is also able to get in contact with Kurama and confirm that he's okay, much to her relief. During the next part of their journey, Jiraiya explains to the teams about who they're looking for and about her skills in healing. Sakura's eyes widen in awe and she wonders how much better her own healing jutsu would get if she trained under someone like that. Eventually, they arrive in the town that's having a festival. There, Jiraiya tells the three to enjoy themselves and tells Sasuke and Sakura to make sure that none of them spend all of their money while looking directly at Naruko. Naruko huffs while Sasuke and Sakura promise to be responsible and they go to enjoy themselves. During their fun, Naruko finds a stall selling omamori and decides to get one for each of them. Specifically, she gets the yakuyoke, the charm that is intended to protect one from evil spirits, bad people, accidents, etc. For Sakura, she gets one with a cherry blossom pattern, for Sasuke she gets one with a fire pattern, for Jiraiya she gets one with some cute frogs on it, and for herself she gets one with a cute little fox on it. Sasuke also finds a stall selling hair accessories and gets something for each of the girls. For Sakura, he gets a hair clip with a cherry blossom design, and for Naruko, he gets a pair of hairpins with little flames, cherry blossoms, and a little fox on top. Meanwhile, Sakura finds a stall selling nice chopsticks and gets a set for each of them with matching case. For herself, she gets a pair with a simple but elegant bamboo design. For Sasuke, she gets a red pair with a white moon and star pattern, and for Naruko, she gets a pair with a cute frog pattern to go with her purse. After gifts are exchanged, they go looking for Jiraiya, whom they find in a host club talking to some women. When Naruko asks what he's doing, he leans in and winks. He tells the teens that he's gathering information, and that you'd be amazed at what hostesses overhear while on the job. Unlike last time, here he's actually telling the truth. Naruko gives Jiraiya his omamori, and the women start cooing over how adorable it is, asking if Naruko is Jiraiya's daughter and such. They crowd around her so much they accidentally knock her over, causing her to knock over a table with sake on it, which then splashes two men in coats. While Sasuke and Sakura help Naruko up and the women apologize for knocking her over, the men begin to shout that she ruined their expensive coats. From there, the same thing happens as in canon, with Jiraiya taking out the loudmouth men with a Rasengan, then buying all of the store's balloons. The next day, Jiraiya begins to teach the Rasengan not only to Naruko, but Sasuke and Sakura as well. Jiraiya was originally only going to teach it to Naruko, but after spending some time with the trio and seeing how they share all of their info and techniques, he's realized that Naruko would try to teach it to her teammates even if she was only just learning it herself. He'd much rather all three of them learn it from him than deal with that disaster waiting to happen. While all three of them are able to pass the first stage with flying colours, the second stage is where we start to see problems and the power gaps between the teammates start to show. Sakura, despite her best efforts, just can't get the rubber ball to burst or even get a hole in it. After many failed attempts and even Naruko and Sasuke trying to help, she eventually has to accept that her chakra just isn't strong enough, or maybe she just doesn't have enough of it. She hopes that this will change in time as she gets older and stronger, but as she is now, a Rasengan just isn't in the cards. So instead, she turns her focus on helping Sasuke and Naruko. Sasuke manages to burst the ball first due to him having better focus than Naruko. When she's still having trouble, he remembers an old story he'd overheard Haruka telling her during one of his famous lectures. Borrowing a brush and some ink from Jiraiya, he paints the symbol of Konoha on Naruko's palm and tells her to focus on it. Soon after, Naruko is able to burst the ball, using so much energy that she's sent flying and burns her hand. Sasuke catches her and brings her safely to the ground, where Sakura immediately starts tending to her hand. Once again, Jiraiya marvels at how close the three are. Orochimaru does seek out Tsunade to heal his arms, which were skewered and crushed by Haku and Jiraiya respectively. However, as the confrontation goes the same, I'm going to skip it. When Jiraiya starts teaching Sasuke and Naruko the third stage, Sakura catches on quickly as to why the Rasengan needs to be contained, comparing it to the difference between lying on a bed of nails and stepping on a nail. One is a hella cool party trick, the other is hella painful. While they are at the casino, Naruko manages to win full purses for herself, Sasuke, and Sakura. While Jiraiya thinks that Naruko has good instincts, Sasuke and Sakura know that she's just got crazy luck. When they hear about the giant snake, Naruko recognizes the description instantly, explaining to the others about the giant snake that had tried to eat her when they were separated in the Forest of Death. Picking up the pace, Jiraiya leads the teens onward to find Tsunade. When they finally do find her, Jiraiya explains to the medical nin that they came to ask her to heal a young ninja in Konoha, which Tsunade refuses on the grounds that she's retired. Naruko pleads with Tsunade, explaining that being a ninja is everything to Lee. Wanting to get Naruko to shut up and drop the request, Tsunade begins insulting the path of shinobi and even the role of Hokage. The moment her comment of the Hokage role being a joke leaves her mouth, Naruko stands up from her seat. With eerie calm, she tells Tsunade to follow her. Leaving the pub, Naruko leads Tsunade to an abandoned area just outside of town, with Jiraiya, Sasuke, Sakura and Shizune right behind them. Looking around, Naruko nods to herself before turning to Tsunade, who asks why Naruko led her all the way out here. Naruko holds up 3 fingers with the back of her hand facing Tsunade. 1. You refuse to help someone in need. Someone who has done nothing but help and uplift everyone around them. She lowers her index finger. 2. You've insulted the path of shinobi, and in doing so, you've insulted everyone that I care for. She lowers her ring finger, leaving only her middle finger raised. And 3. You've insulted the role of Hokage. Just one of these would have earned you a punch, but all 3? That's earned you a beating. And I'd feel bad if any of the buildings in town got wrecked because I forgot to hold myself back. Now, while Naruko does a bit better than her canon counterpart, this is still Tsunade. Naruko does manage to impress her with all of the tricks she's pulling out and how she's weaving them together. However, Tsunade is still out of Naruko's league and she does still get knocked away with just a flick to the forehead. When Naruko gets back to her feet, Tsunade asks why Naruko is so protective of the Hokage title. Her protectiveness of her friends, Tsunade can understand, but why that? Because I'm going to be the first female Hokage, and the greatest Hokage in history. I'm going to show everyone that my friends were not wrong, and I'm going to use that title to protect everyone I love. As soon as she makes that declaration, Naruko begins to form her pseudo Rasengan. This ends the same way as in canon, but with Sasuke and Sakura rushing over to check on Naruko and pointing out that she'd contained it a lot better this time than she had just that morning. When Tsunade starts going off at Jiraiya, Naruko interrupts her. Hey, old lady! You're a betting woman, right? How's about a wager? Naruko wagers Tsunade that if she can complete the Rasengan in 1 week, not only will Tsunade come to Konoha to heal Lee, but she'll also take on Sakura as an apprentice. While Sakura is trying to pick her jaw off the floor, Tsunade is surprised at the girl's audacity. She decides to up the ante. If Naruko really can pull that off, not only will she take on Sakura as an apprentice and heal her friend, she'll also give Naruko her necklace. However, if Naruko fails, Tsunade will get all of Naruko's money and the hairpins that Sasuke gave her, which she's been wearing in her hair ever since she got them. When Jiraiya goes for a drink with Tsunade, he tells her about how close the 3 genin are, including how they share all of their jutsu with each other. This completely shocks her, making her choke on her sake. He also tells her that the hairpins were a gift from Sasuke, and that she hasn't stopped wearing them ever since she got them. Even though it was only a short while ago, he's pretty sure that they've become precious to her. He also tells Tsunade that if she puts the lives of those 3 at risk, he will not hesitate to kill her. Back over with the genin, Shizune is telling them the history of Tsunade's necklace, and just like in canon, this makes Naruko even more determined to win the bet. While Naruko trains the Rasengan, Sasuke and Sakura check on her regularly, making sure that she's eating and talking her through the problems she's having with containing the chakra. Even Kurama pipes up with his own commentary here and there. On the second last day, Sasuke asks Naruko how she'd been able to hold her temper when Tsunade crossed 3 lines at once. Naruko explains that she was actually using what Jiraiya had taught them during the second step and putting it into a different context. She was focusing her anger at Tsunade and trying to keep her from hurting anyone else. It also helped that Sasuke and Sakura were within range to remind her that she couldn't just let loose. Sasuke suggests that she try doing that again for this. Focus the chakra in a single point or direction while mitigating any damage to the surrounding area. He also reminds Naruko that she's always done her best work when she's thinking outside the box. On the last day, Naruko thinks about Sasuke's advice. Focus her attack at 1 point. And think outside the box. Think outside the box. Suddenly, the idea hits her and she creates a shadow clone. Then, building her chakra with the clone to focus it, she manages to create a proper Rasengan, which she uses to make a hole in the rock face next to her. Tiredly, she gives a whoop of joy before passing out, where she is then found by Shizune, Sasuke and Sakura, who take her back to the hotel. There, Shizune tells Tsunade about the hole they'd found in the rock near Naruko. Tsunade lets out a small chuckle. She can't believe the kid really did it. Still smiling, she knocks out the other three in the room before leaving. There was something she needed to do. And that, everyone, is where I'm going to leave the story for now. Join me next time as we see the not-so-happy reunion of the Sanin. I'm Rune. See you next chapter.